me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god. You call me a god. Let's go. I'm about to go off like a weapon. Fuel to the top.
What is going on, and welcome back to Juggernaut Retro Reviews. And today I'm here to talk about WrestleMania 26. So we're less than a week away from WrestleMania 41, so I decided to go review some WrestleManias that I haven't reviewed yet, and WrestleMania 26 is one of them. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So we go all the way back to March 28th, 2010, from Glendale, Arizona. And this was at the University of Phoenix Stadium. The attendance for the show was 72,219, and the total buy rate for the show was 885,000. So they took a dip for the buy rate from WrestleMania 25, which was 995,000. So, like I said, they went down. I definitely see why, because you have people leaving the company. You had new stars coming on the scene that they weren't really resonating with, like Sheamus and Jack Swagger, people like that. So it was definitely a transition time for like WWE, like in the early 2010s, Excuse me. But I gotta say this, WrestleMania 26 was a really good card, like top to bottom. It was a fun card to watch. Because I believe it was better than WrestleMania 25. I mean, there were matches on WrestleMania 25 that were better than 26. But yeah, I believe WrestleMania 26 was better than 27, 28, 29. Now, 30, that's when I think 30 beat WrestleMania 26. But yeah, WrestleMania 26 was definitely a fun, enjoyable show to watch. Like the in-ring quality. Even some of the storytelling was good on the show. But let's go ahead and get started with the first match here. So we had the tag team titles. The unified tag team titles were on the line. We had Miz, the Big Show, and The Miz defending the titles against John Morrison and R-Truth. Now, Miz, the Big Show and Miz, they kind of were taking a thing off, showbiz, I think that's pretty cool, clever tag team name there. When I look at the time for this match, it only got 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That's crazy to think about. Like, the match did not seem that short, but that's what it says on here. The fans were really behind John Morrison and R-Truth in this match. John Morrison, parkour was like really becoming popular, like around this time. It started becoming like on the scene and stuff. So John Morrison, he was doing a lot of like high flying, a lot of aerial action, which was pretty cool. There was this pretty cool spot that R-Truth hit in the match. Well, R-Truth went for a crossbody on the outside of the ring, but Big Show caught him and then slammed him into the ring post. That was a nice spot. But ultimately, Miz would end up retaining when John Morrison, he was going for a springboard, but then Big Show hit him with the KO punch. Big Show did like a blind tag and then hit the KO punch on John Morrison for the 1, 2, 3. So still the unified tag team champions, Miz. All right, way to get the show kicked off. Excuse me. And it's crazy to think about. For WrestleMania 26, The Miz was opening up the show. And then the next year, The Miz was main eventing WrestleMania 27. It's crazy how things can change like in a year. But speaking of change, we got the next match here, which was a triple threat match. We had all the members of Legacy in the match. We had Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. So, like 18 months before WrestleMania 26, Randy Orton made the faction of the Legacy. All these guys are third generation wrestlers. They all had a goal set in mind to help out Randy Orton, win tag team titles, help Randy Orton win championships. So, yeah, So that like that was like back in 2008. And like 2008, 2009, Orton, he was still trying to, figure out himself. He didn't seem like all natural, especially that main event match that he had at WrestleMania 25. It seemed forced. His WrestleMania 25 match. But this right here, this seemed like really good. Even though he was starting off the show, basically the second match of the show. I think this was a pretty good spot for Orton during this time, because he was still trying to figure out, a lot of his new character and stuff, and him being a babyface again. So, yeah, I really like that. But yeah, this was definitely a fun match to watch. Cody Rhodes and Cody Rhodes and Teddy DiBiase. It seemed like a handicap match at some points when they double teamed Orton a lot. Yeah, this was definitely fun stuff. I like the Hangman DDT that Orton did on both Cody and Ted. That was pretty nice. Orton even brought out the punt. He punted Cody Rhodes. It was nice seeing Cody Rhodes on his first WrestleMania. And then Ted DiBiase, he tried sneaking in, hit the Dream Streets, but Randy Orton countered that into the RKO to pick up the victory. And Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase, they tried screwing him over at the Rumble. Well, Cody tried helping him at the Rumble, but ultimately failed. And then Ted DiBiase kind of screwed him at Elimination Chamber, so Orton wanted to get his revenge here. But yeah, this was a fun match to watch. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Orton picked up the victory. All right. Then the next match we have here is the Money in the Bank ladder match. We had 10 superstars in this match. Yes, quite a bit. We had Shelton Benjamin, MVP, Matt Hardy, Kofi Kingston, Kane, Evan Bourne, Drew McIntyre, he was IC champion at this time, Dolph Ziggler, Christian, and Jack Swagger. Now this was the final Money in the Bank match to be at a WrestleMania, because I think in June of 2010 they made it into its own pay-per-view. So we have 3 Money in the Bank matches this year in 2010. And you had a lot of up-and-coming stars, in this match, people like Dolph Ziggler, he was still new on the scene. Drew McIntyre, they were calling him the Chosen One. Who else? Jack Swagger, some people, the fans weren't really resonating with some of these, new guys all that much. Evan Bourne, he did some pretty good stuff in this match. But this seemed kind of more of a mellow, Money in the Bank match, not big crazy spots that we've seen, especially for Shelton Benjamin, because it seems like he usually kills himself in these matches. He just goes crazy, does a crazy spot, where he hurts himself or does something crazy. But thankfully, Shelton Benjamin did not do that here. Some notable stuff in this match. Christian and Matt Hardy, it was nice seeing them two square off, go at it. There was one point where they were fighting each other on the top of the ladder. Matt Hardy it was Christian who hit a nice inverted DDT off the ladder. And then Michael Cole called it a twist of fate, which Michael Cole, come on. During this time, I was not a fan of Michael Cole. But that was pretty cool. Evan Bourne, he hit a nice meteor off a ladder. That was pretty cool. What else happened? He even hit a shooting star press off of a ladder, a bridge ladder. That was pretty cool. I think a really notable spot for Jack Swagger was when he was in between a ladder and he was sandwiched in between, and they were hitting him with 2 other ladders in there. And he was in between the ladder. That was a pretty cool spot. Drew McIntyre, he really got a lot of heat in this match. Every time he tried to go for the briefcase, he definitely was getting quite a bit of heat. And apparently, the rumors around this time, they wanted to do Drew McIntyre and Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. Thankfully that they didn't go with that. Thankfully they went with that rematch. What else? Kofi Kingston, he did a pretty clever spot in this match. Kofi Kingston has always done some pretty crazy things, like in Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank matches or ladder matches in general. Well, the ladder, Kane tore apart this like one ladder, like ripped it off the hinges and all that. So Kofi Kingston was using the ladder like as some stilts, and he tried to like climb up the ladder even like with the stilts. So that was pretty clever in the match. I enjoyed that. Like I said, you had some veterans in this match like Christian. He was always in the shadows of Edge. You had Matt Hardy, which was always in the shadows of Jeff Hardy, and of course Kane. He was always in the shadows of Undertaker. So like I said, you had a fair amount of veterans in this match. Who knew what they were doing in ladder matches. But ultimately, Jack Swagger ended up winning the match, which I didn't think that was the right move. To be honest, if I could go back in time, I would have went with Christian to win the Money in the Bank match, because he definitely deserved it. But was he still the ECW champion, or I think they were getting rid of ECW at this point and like transitioning to NXT? But yeah, I would have gave Christian the Money in the Bank briefcase at this time. Maybe insert himself into Edge and Chris Jericho and inserted him into that feud. Maybe cashing in on one of them. I don't know. That would be pretty cool seeing Christian with the Money in the Bank briefcase. But yeah, Jack Swagger, he ends up winning. I can't remember who he knocks off the top of the ladder, but like he smashes somebody's face into the briefcase when they were fighting on top of the ladder, and Jack Swagger wins. But yeah, I mean, like I said, people didn't really care much about Swagger. He was this, new on the block. People weren't resonating with him that much. So yeah, but Jack Swagger ended up winning the match, which this wasn't my favorite Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania. This is one of the worst ones, but I mean, hey, it was still decent stuff here in the match. All right, and then the next match we had was Triple H going one-on-one with Sheamus. Once again, another new guy. Sheamus, he debuted at the end of 2009, beating John Cena, making that meteoric rise to the top. And apparently the rumor for the show was to have Sheamus, I think Triple H to be champion, to going up against Sheamus for to be like a main event match, which if that was going to be the case, that would have been like the same reaction for Triple H and Randy Orton the year prior. So I'm happy they did not go with that route, but they still ended up going with Triple H and Sheamus. Well, it's like in the video package here, they were saying, Sheamus, he looked up to Triple H a lot. Growing up, he looked up to Triple H. He wanted to be like him. And he said that he's done a lot more, in less than a year than what Triple H did in his whole entire career. And then even in Triple H in the promo here, he was talking about how he wanted to go after the big dog. He wanted to go after Ultimate Warrior in one of his first matches at WrestleMania, and he got beat by Ultimate Warrior, kind of set him down. So basically saying, hey, you try to go for us, we're gonna put you down, as big dogs are. So yeah, this was actually some pretty interesting stuff here. I gotta say, Sheamus, he was doing some like the rest holds that he was doing this match. I just weren't really. I don't know. They were kind of boring at some points in this match. Triple H, he was hitting some nice moves on Sheamus. Triple H did end up winning the match. He hit the pedigree on Sheamus when he was like, it looks like Triple H was out after Sheamus hit like some knees onto, or like hit like a bro kick on Triple H. And then it looks like Triple H, he was just out, but then he kind of like possums out and like hits the pedigree for the win. Wasn't a very long match. Like I said, I'm happy this was not for the WWE Championship. I'm happy about that. But yeah, Triple H wins here. And then they would go on to have like a few more matches, and I think they had a match like Extreme Rules where Sheamus injured him, and like Sheamus got the win back over Triple H. But yeah, I mean, this was okay stuff here. Wasn't too bad. And it wasn't until like a few years later where Sheamus started getting like his respect, going like, oh, Sheamus is like a real player. Especially, with that match in 2023, that triple threat match for the IC title. Yeah, that really was a coming out party. That's one of the best of Sheamus matches. But yeah, we will move on. So we had Rey Mysterio going up against CM Punk. And if Rey Mysterio lost, he had to join the Straight Edge Society. So the Straight Edge Society consisted of Luke Gallows and Serena. At this time, CM Punk, he was one of the most hated heels in the company. The whole video package, or the whole how this feud started, was Punk was in a qualifying match for Money in the Bank, which Rey Mysterio, he kind of got himself involved with. No, it wasn't that. No, I mean that kind of was the part of it, but it was Rey Mysterio's daughter's birthday, Aaliyah. It was her birthday. He was singing "Happy Birthday," but then the Straight Edge Society came out. CM Punk says, "Hey, he wants a match at WrestleMania," and then he did this whole devilish type of. It seemed like so devilish, where CM Punk was singing "Happy Birthday" to Aaliyah, and she was covering her, crying and covering her ears, and she didn't want to hear it, didn't want to see it. It's CM Punk, he was definitely hated at this time. Yeah, he was really hated at this time with the Straight Edge Society. Don't do drugs and all that. All this whole character, I enjoyed it. And looking back, I enjoyed it, but as a kid, I'm not a big fan of this character. But hey, looking back, it's really good. I wish I would have got more time in this match. It's only got 6.5 minutes, which is crazy to think about. Because I feel like right when the match gets going, it seems like they're just doing their finishers, and the match just doesn't get out of second gear. But these two really had good chemistry. I really like that springboard, the moonsault DDT that Rey Mysterio did on CM Punk in this match. Of course, he had involvement of the Straight Edge Society. Serena, she tried to sacrifice herself when Rey Mysterio was going for the 619. So Rey Mysterio, he's trying to figure out how he can, hit that 619, but he does a Hurricane Rana onto CM Punk, and then CM Punk goes into flying into Luke Gallows, and then Rey Mysterio hits a 619 for the 1-2-3. So the winner match was Rey Mysterio. He didn't have to join the Straight Edge Society. And I think they would have more matches coming up. They had I think they had a match at Extreme Rules and Over the Limit. And there was one where Punk had to get his head shaved bald. And then later on in the summer, CM Punk was wearing a mask throughout this summer run of 2010. But yeah, Rey Mysterio won. Like I said, I wish the match would have got more time because they are really good in the ring. But yeah, we move on to the next match, which we had was a no holds bar match between Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. So it was 13 years since Bret Hart has been in a WWE ring, since he's been at WrestleMania. So back in '97, of course, we all know what happened with the Montreal Screwjob. And Vince, at this time, he was trying to bury the hatchet with Bret Hart. He wanted to bring it back for a very long time. And I would say if the Screwjob never happened, the popularity of WWF, WWE would not be as popular as it was, because that really made WWE really popular when this whole Screwjob happened. So you had to be a little ruthless, to get a little, to get on top and stuff, which was really good. But yeah, that Screwjob, with Bret and Shawn. And for the longest of time where Vince McMahon was saying, Bret, screw Bret, and all that. And I love this whole video package that they were doing. The song that they were using for this video package was like really good. But yeah, it was cool seeing Bret Hart, come back, be back in a WWE ring. I mean, I didn't like the angle that they were doing, like where Bret Hart was getting in his limo or getting in his car, and then like he got his leg smashed, so they like broke his leg. Angle wise. So that like forced McMahon go like, okay, yeah, I'll have a match. I'll have a match with Bret Hart at WrestleMania because he's only, he's on one leg. But Bret Hart, he faked that angle there, and he goes like, nah. He goes like, you can't get out of this now. You signed a contract. You can't get out of this now. So we had Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. This was nice for Bret Hart, to get his revenge, and this was a nice moment for him. But I gotta say, match wise, oh my god, this was kind of atrocious. One of the worst things of the night. But like I said, moment wise, this was good stuff. I like moment wise here. But one thing I didn't really like is how they brought the whole bunch of the Hart family out. They brought Stu out. They brought so many people out of the Hart family. Even like Natalia, Davey Boy Smith, Tyson Kidd, everybody, who was part of the Hart family. They brought him out. Excuse me. And they had like Stu Hart being the special guest referee. But yeah, Vince apparently he bought them off, but Bret Hart was going like, wait, what? He didn't know anything about it, but in reality, Bret knew about this. Them trying to buy, or Vince trying to buy the Hart family off, which Bret goes like, nah, that ain't happening. So the match became a lumberjack match, which throughout the match, Vince, he tried running away. The Hart family beat him up. They beat him down. Yeah, this was not good wrestling wise. Vince was taking a lot of chair shots to the back in this match here, which was nice to see. He even there was a crowbar where Vince tried to take out. He tried using it on all the Hart family. But it was nice seeing Bret Hart locking that sharpshooter, making Vince tap out. That was pretty good, but like wrestling wise, this match was not that good. But Bret Hart, he got his revenge after everything that happened with the Montreal screw job. It was nice seeing Bret back in the ring. And then, of course, he buried his hatchet with Shawn Michaels. There was no hard feelings against them. So this was good. I enjoyed this a lot. But yeah, we move on to the next match, which we had was the World Heavyweight title on the line. We had Chris Jericho defending it against the 2010 Royal Rumble winner, Edge. I gotta say this. Going into, back in 2010, because this was one of the first WrestleManias I watched as a kid, that I was able to order. I was really looking forward to this a lot. I was happy to see the return of Edge at the Rumble, because that's when I kind of started reading dirt sheets as well in 2010. But there were like rumors of Edge, he's going to be returning at the Rumble, and of course it was at the Slammies. I can't remember what Chris Jericho said, but he goes like I like to thank my long. I don't exactly remember exactly what he said, but he goes like useless friend or whatever, or he's very injury prone or something like that along those lines. But yeah, I was looking forward to this match going into it. But yeah, this match, after coming out of it, it was like very disappointing. That's a great word to use for this match. It was very disappointing after Edge coming off of that Achilles injury. It just seemed like maybe Edge wasn't ready to come back yet, or there was like some disconnect here with this match. Yeah, there was something that I don't know, wasn't resonating right with this match here. And also, there was a lot of selling that Edge did, and I think some of it was due to actual pain he had, with his, because Chris Jericho was really working on the heel or the Achilles tendon of of Edge. But I mean, they did some nice chemistry in this match. I like the counters that they were using, which was pretty good. I wasn't the biggest fan of when during this promo package when Edge was going spear. Like I just felt like that was force fed a little bit. I wasn't a fan of that. And I also felt like the crowd in this match was kind of dead. Like they didn't give Edge that a big huge reaction like I thought they would. Which was very disappointing. And also during this time, early 2010 or 2009, I felt like they were just putting the title on the people just to put the title on them. There wasn't really they were just. I felt like the titles at this point were kind of useless. They didn't mean a whole lot. They were just doing flip flopping, flip flop with the titles. But Chris Jericho ends up winning. He ends up winning by the code breaker. It was just kind of a disappointing match. I expected a lot more out of it. But yeah, we will go on to the next match, which we had was a 10 Divas tag team match. We had Alicia Fox, Layla and Michelle McCool, Maurice, and Vicky Guerrero going up against Beth Phoenix, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly, Mickie James, and those are all the people in this match. Yeah, I felt bad for the women's division or the Divas division at this time. This is when they weren't really giving them a whole lot of time. It's when they thought of them all as eye candy. That's what Vince thought of them as. Yeah, this was a very short match here. The heels ended up winning this match. It looked like there was a botched spot towards the end where who was it? Was it Vicky Guerrero? I can't remember. It was one of them, and they hit this this splash on the Kelly. Kelly's shoulder ended up coming up. They were trying to have Vicky Guerrero pin her, but it looked very botched. And there were one point where all the women were coming in. They were hitting their finishers. They were each hitting their moves. It was just to get all these women on the card. But I was not a fan of this at all. The heels won: Alicia Fox, Lay Cool, Maurice, and Vicky Guerrero. Yeah, very pointless match. If you watch a show, skip over this match. Don't watch it. But we move on to the next match, which we had was the WWE Championship on the line. We had Batista defending the title against none other than John Cena. So it was at the Elimination Chamber of 2010. Cena wins. He beats Triple H. It was a grueling match. Cena wins the title. Vince comes out. He's saying, "No, you're not done yet. You're gonna be facing," because Cena was friends with Bret Hart. So he goes "No, you got one more match. You're gonna be facing this man," and it was none other than Batista. So Batista comes out, hits him with the spear, hits him with the power Batista bomb, and wins the title. So basically, this is kind of like their whole feud here. And also Batista, he's jealous of John Cena. Go hey, he says, why do you, why, I don't understand why Stone Cold passed the torch to you. And why are you on all these movies and television shows? Typical, feud for John Cena. It seemed like what CM Punk did in 2011. How he aired out his grievances to John Cena. How he was fed up with the way Cena is the man, and how Batista and Cena's careers are very, very similar with each other. They both won championships at WrestleMania 21. They both won countless titles. They both won Royal Rumbles. But ultimately Cena is the Cena's the poster boy of WWE, which Batista wasn't liking that. And that's his whole feud right here. And to be honest, I don't know why they just flip-flop the title. They play hot potato with the title. If they just wanted to give the title back to John Cena here. Like, they could have had Cena going in as the champion if they wanted to do John Cena and Batista. Because Batista, he was getting ready to be on his way out of WWE. But he ends up, he was getting ready to be on his way out of WWE. But I guess they wanted to have him go in as champion. I don't know. Just to give him their WWE Championship. But yeah, this match, I gotta say, this was some really good stuff here. This was a lot better than their SummerSlam match, in my opinion. It was a lot more safer. Batista wasn't as reckless in this match. They even tried doing that whole where John Cena does a leg drop off the top rope, but Batista come in the Batista bomb. Like I said, that looked a lot more safer. They didn't screw up Cena's neck as bad as a SummerSlam match did, where it broke his neck or tore his neck. Excuse me. Even the counters in this match were pretty good. Like Cena countering the the power slam into like an attitude adjustment, and like the way he was like hitting the AAs were like hitting them with like getting some nice power on it and some nice height on it was pretty good. These guys they have really good chemistry in the ring, which I really enjoyed it. Cena ends up winning by doing the STF. Like Batista, he was going for the Batista bomb, and then Cena counters it, transitions into an STF. I wasn't the biggest fan of the way Batista tapped out. Like it was a nonchalant tap out. Like he didn't care about it that much. But yeah, Cena makes Batista tap out. The fans were into this match quite a bit. Cena wasn't getting all that much. He got some hate here, but it wasn't like the last time I remember Cena getting a lot of hate was like WrestleMania 23. That's when he got a whole bunch of hate, like that match against Shawn Michaels. But yeah, Cena won here, won another championship. And then they would go on to have a few more matches, like Extreme Rules and Over the Limit. But yeah, Cena won here. Now we go on to the main event, which was Streak versus Career. So we had Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. This is a rematch from WrestleMania 25. Yeah, this match, to be honest, I always like the WrestleMania 25 match so much better. Like that's the match I choose to watch if I watch the Shawn Michaels and Undertaker match. That's the one I always choose, and that's always the one I talk about. But yeah, we got the Streak versus Career here. You see a lot more intensity, a lot more athleticism from Shawn Michaels here. And, going into this match, Shawn Michaels, he went into the Elimination Chamber and he screwed The Undertaker because that was his only way to be able to face Undertaker at WrestleMania. So he screwed him. Undertaker agreed to have the match under one condition: if Shawn Michaels will put his career on the line, which Michaels did. I gotta say, the counters in this match were really good. Going on from last year. Sometimes it's hard to top. It's hard to top the prior year's match. They did a pretty good job with it. Like I said, I enjoy the 25 match more. Minus that whole spot that Undertaker does on the outside where he lands on the cameraman. That's a scary spot right there. That could have fucked up the Undertaker really bad. But with the whole emotion that Shawn Michaels was having and the sympathy that Undertaker was showing towards the end of the match, and Shawn Michaels slapping him in the face, saying, "No, you don't be doing that," and kind of angering the Undertaker. What the fuck? How do I end this guy? What do I need to do to end him? So I really enjoyed that from this match here. The emotion in this match. The spot that I really liked was the the moonsault on the outside of the ring from Shawn Michaels, and like it broke the announce table. That was pretty good. Because they talked about, like, in the video package, that one mistake that Shawn Michaels took when he was going for the moonsault, and Undertaker caught him in the pile driver, tombstone pile driver at WrestleMania 25. Well, Shawn Michaels goes like, "Well, it's not, it's not in the ring." So he goes like, "I'm gonna do it." Because I was like, why does he just do the elbow drop? But no, he decides to go for the moonsault because they're on the outside of the ring. But the counters that they were doing with each other, and like the spacing that Shawn Michaels got, hitting the Sweet Chin music, it was just like, it was perfect here. It was really good. And it took 3 tombstones for Undertaker to put Shawn Michaels away and end him. Yeah, this was just some fun stuff. And Shawn Michaels ended up losing here. Undertaker won, and that was the career of Shawn Michaels, And, Shawn Michaels at the end of WrestleMania 25 goes like, hey, he was satisfied how that match ended. He's like, hey, he could walk away at this point, but he wanted Taker to beat him on the last match, and go like, hey, that's the best way to go out for Shawn Michaels, which was a great thing. So Undertaker wins here. And also there was a lot of pressure going on to be the main event, without any world title. That's something big if there's no title on the line, with these 2 big stars of Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. That's a big thing. That's really huge here. But yeah, Undertaker wins, and that's how WrestleMania 26 ended. So definitely, I gotta say, WrestleMania 26 was an enjoyable show. If there's any one match that I will want you guys should go check out, I would say it would be the main event. Or even, John Cena and Batista, that's another good match you could check out. Those are the best matches to check out on this show. But, yeah, that was my WrestleMania 26 review. If this is your first time checking out my channel, hit that subscribe button. That really help me out a whole lot. Also, hit that like button to help out my videos in the algorithm. Also, go down in the comments. Let me know what video guys you guys want to see on my channel, if I can even talk right now. And also, don't forget to share this video with all your friends, your family. Also, stay tuned for videos that I got coming up on my channel. A lot of WrestleMania content coming out this week, so definitely stay tuned for that. But yeah, this is your boy Juggernaut saying peace out, and I will see you guys in my next video.